The ancient Egyptians lived a life steeped in bureaucracy. They loved recording the details of daily life. And we see many representations of scribes seated on the floor with a papyrus roll in one hand and a rush brush in the other. Unfortunately, this scribe has lost his brush over time. If we look at the wooden panel here, we see a seated figure. He has his scribal equipment over his shoulder, his palette of red and black ink on one side, the water pot and brush holder on the other. Scribes were present at every important activity. We see two of them bending forward, diligently recording the proceedings. With their rush brush in one hand, their scribal palette in the other, they bend over their papyrus rolls. The ancient Egyptian administration focused on many aspects of life, such as taxation. The scribes here have their rush brushes tucked behind their ears. They're recording the taxation contributions. We know a great deal about the important administrators in ancient Egyptian society. Early on, nepotism ran rife. The same men held priestly, administrative, and military titles, and these men were all closely related to the pharaoh. This man, Ra-Hotep, was a son of a king and also a chief priest, but he was also overseer of construction, overseer of the army, and the prime minister. It's the hieroglyphs on the back of the statue that tell us this. So often, the statues were inscribed, long inscriptions giving us the many titles held by these important individuals in the government. And by the New Kingdom, many more men from outside the royal family held posts in this government, and the personnel of the temple, the administration, and the military had been separated out. This man, in Ebony, was a military man. He was a troop commander and an overseer of weaponry. Another important individual in the government of Egypt was the Chancellor or Overseer of the Treasury. This title was held by Mayor during the reign of Tutankhamun. Another important individual in the Egyptian government was the Chief Steward. He was responsible for the royal household. He was in charge of the estates, supplying the palace. Senenmut here held that title. But it's clear that the most important office in government was that of Vizier or Prime Minister. Like Ra-Hotep we met earlier, Ankh here held this title and was in charge of the pharaoh's building projects. Just imagine being in charge of a construction project when the project was to build the Great Pyramid at Giza. By about 1500 BC, there were two viziers, one of the north and one of the south. They exercised a combination of courtly, judicial, and administrative authority, second only to the king. During the reign of Thutmose III, around 1400 BC, the vizier was Rekhmera. The inscriptions and scenes on the walls of his tomb are particularly useful for understanding this role in ancient Egyptian society. We see on the walls of his tomb all the activities over which Rekhmera had control. And importantly, there's a lengthy inscription on the wall of his tomb. It's a job description for the role of Prime Minister. This role was quite clearly at the top of the government machine, acting as an intermediary between every government department and the ruler. Every day, representatives from Egypt's police force had to report to the vizier. The ancient Egyptian police force was predominantly Nubian. They were the Magi. They were skilled archers. There are some lovely scenes on the walls of tombs showing police apprehending thieves. This policeman seems to have some baboons to help control the thief at the marketplace.